What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another one. As you can tell by the thumbnail and the title of the video, gonna be going over how I'm making myself a fur hat. It's no surprise to anybody. A lot of other channels have covered it. Fur prices aren't the greatest, and winter's coming. So I'm going to take that chance. I wanted a fur hat. I caught a bunch of coons last year. That's what I'm going to be using in the video. And a lot of you guys, if you catch some spare coons, if you're not targeting them, but you take them out and you're kind of wanting to do a little more of the fur handle inside and just take advantage of the fact that you're not probably going to get a whole lot of money for that coon. I think last year they were getting like $1 for them. I'd be surprised if it was higher than that this year at all, or even close to that. So maybe something that going into this fall you may want to do for yourself is make yourself a fur hat, and kind of going to go over how I've started doing that with myself. So let's get right into it. So of course, to make a fur hat, you're going to need some fur. So this is one of the coons that I caught last year and skinned him out in normal trapper style, tube skinned him, rolled him up. So this summer I got him out and I tanned him, and I will leave a link down below for the different types of tanning solution I've used. I've used both the Orange Bottle and NuTan. This is NuTan, and I think for garments like this I would probably go with the NuTan. The Orange Bottle, if you're thinking about using it, it just, at least whenever I used it and did it, it left the hides a lot harder, more rigid. You really had to work it a whole lot more than you did on this NuTan. But whenever you're selecting your coon hides, if you're going to need more than one, which I had to use at least 2 up to the point I'm at now, that's why I actually did 3 overall. You're going to want some that have the same length and kind of thickness of hair that you're going to put together to make that hat. That's just so your hat doesn't look kind of patchy. You want it all to flow nice together. The coons that I took, they were all taken about the same time, so their fur was all about the same thickness, so that was pretty nice, and they're in the same area, pretty close to one another. Another thing you want to take into consideration whenever you're picking out your coons is, I picked larger coons because you're going to be using just this middle section right out of the back right there, and that's going to be your denser hair. It's going to be what most garment factories, whenever you send in your fur to be sold, they're going to use a lot out of the back of these coons and different critters. And that's going to be because the hide, the leather underneath is a little bit denser. They got more to work with there. They can thin it down. It's also going to make your life a lot easier whenever you come, if you do decide to do this, comes to stitching it all together. You're not going to have paper thin leather that your stitches might rip out of. You're going to have a little more substance there to get a stitch in, and it's going to hold a lot better. So I will move on now to kind of patterning out the style of hat that I chose. Whenever I started this project, I looked a lot online just to see if there were some patterns already available and some different measurements or dimensions that I needed, and I kind of looked over different styles, and ultimately I ended up just coming up with my own pattern. So I'll kind of give you the layout of that so you can kind of take the same measurements, get the same feel for your hat, and ultimately I can probably make up some plans and put down in the description. But ultimately I think you would probably be best, at least from what my experience has been so far, just drawing out and measuring up your own plans, because everybody's head's a different shape, different size. So that's going to be your biggest factor in all this. So you're going to grab yourself a piece of paper, or like I did, this big heavy note or heavy paint paper. You can get it at Walmart. This is 11 by 14 inch dimensions, and the reason I did that is just because you're going to have larger dimensions on your head areas, sections, and you can also get multiple sections out of one piece of paper, so you're just using a whole lot. I had this laying around. It wasn't something that I actually went out and bought, so take that into consideration. If you have something that might work, you do want it to be flexible. You don't really want to use cardboard, and I'll get into that more in just a second. So another batch of tools that we're going to use, I will show you also here. So your number one thing you're going to need as far as tools, in my opinion, is a sewing tape. And that's because it flexes and you can get a more accurate measurement for the different sections of your hat that you're going to need to make. And in true great fashion, Amazon has all we need, and it conveniently comes in a pack just like this, and it includes a sewing tape. So I will leave that link in the description below. It'll make it a lot easier for you whenever you go to do this for yourself. It actually has probably more than what you need. It has the sewing tape, it has all the leather needles, it has all the leather sewing string, and I think a couple other pins, things like a bobbin, so you're not running that needle into your fingers. And pretty much, like I said, everything you need and probably a little bit more to get your hat up and going. So a couple of key measurements. I would say go ahead and take your hat off, and you're going to want to measure all the way around your head to get your initial measurement of what the overall size of your head is. Now, you can try and use your hat, but typically your hat's tighter on your head already, and that's because you don't want it flying off, of course. So if you do that, you might want to tack on a little bit of extra. That also comes into, you have to consider you're putting different sections of this together, so there's going to be a little bit of overlap where those hides are meeting, and you're going to sew that together. There's going to be a little bit of a ridge there. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. So it's going to take up more of your hide, and it's going to pull all that kind of in tighter on your head if you've made it exactly to the measurements of your head. So, like I said a minute ago, you're going to want to get you some paper, and whenever you make your initial sections, you're going to want to divide it out by where you want your ear flap section essentially to lay in proportion on your face. I have mine coming right here kind of to the corner of my eye. This was my initial design, just a normal drop down for my ear. I ended up hating that because it left my neck really open, because I ended up eventually taping all these cardboard paper dense sections together to get like a primitive design of the hat. I had a lot of air space back here. I hate cold air on my neck, so I changed it, gave it more of this slope design. Literally just took this original design and put an angle on it. It's the exact same design, and that solved my issue. So you're going to take that full measurement length, and then you're going to need two of these, 2 ears each side. And you're going to want to take a measurement essentially from wherever you want it on your head. Like I said, corner of your eye, pinch it, and then find whatever that measurement is. And that would be the double one, like it would be for both sides. So you need to divide that to give you the upper portion length for your hat. And then from there, I added on a 1/4 inch of a tab, just so I could get a rough estimate of that part whenever these two earpieces meet in the back. of your hat, and they wrap around how they're going to be. So that's your initial measurement. Take the measurement from your back portion of your hat, subtract that from the original. That's going to give you the distance for the front portion, and then, like I said, add on a 1/2 inch because you got 2 seams on either side, 1/4 inch each, and that will give you this guy. So at this point, you would have something that looked like this whenever you cut it out of your hide. And like I said, if I can get a good showing here, you are just going to make a little bit of a seam there and stitch all this up. That's how it's going to meet. We'll get into that more in just a second. Now, once you have your sections cut out, at this point you should have 3. You should have 1 for each side that covers your ears, and then the band that goes over your forehead. And to measure that out, you need to remember on your height, as far as the band thickness, you're going to want that to meet the top of your head, because you don't want it sliding down over your eyes, and you don't also want it riding up too far on your forehead. So whenever I did it, I kind of just brought the paper up, and it's alright to cut off more and more. Start big, work your way down until you get to the size that you want. But I made it high enough, and then I just kind of took another sheet, put it on top of my head, because it's just going to be a top flat piece that goes over the top of your head. Once you get all the paper portions cut out, you essentially have your hat. I recommend whenever you do this and you have all your paper portions, before you start cutting into your coon hides that you've put a lot of time and effort in to have tanned, or worked up, all fleshing everything, get you some painter's tape, something low stick, low adhesive, tape it all together and put it on. It's going to give you a rough feel of what that hat's going to be like before you get everything cut and sewn together and you get it on your head. It'd be terrible to go through all that work, sew it all together, find out your hat's too small. It's the same thing if it's too big. Too big, you can put a liner in, it might take up a little bit of room, but ultimately it's going to be sloppy on your head. It's not going to be the best fit. Now, whenever it comes time to make your cuts for ear flaps, you're going to want to cut from the leather side, and do not put it on a hard surface and cut down. You're going to want to use a razor blade, but do not push down onto a hard surface like a cutting board or a table, or you're going to cut through all this hair. As you can see, this hair is higher up. It's actually attached up here, and it's hanging down. You're going to want to push down, cut down, and that blade will push away most of this hair. As you can see, it did on mine, and you'll only be cutting through the leather. All I did whenever I traced this out, I put it up, ink pen, and then carefully, slowly, I cut everything out. And I did that twice. So I got 2 sections for my ear flaps out of the same coon, which means that the hair is going to be the same length, like I mentioned earlier. It's going to be the same color because it's from the same coon, and it's going to kind of fade into one another whenever they meet on these same outside portions. The color match is going to be there, and it's going to make your hat look better overall. Now, that's only 2 pieces. And then, of course, you gotta have another coon. So, this guy, he was taken roughly the same time, different color. This one's a little darker than the other one. That's why I made him in the front. You're going to see the front, and you're going to see the back sides. You're probably not going to see a whole lot of different angles all at once. So you can kind of get away with that if you have a unique colored coon. I use it in smaller sections. If you have some that are more uniform, use them for the larger sections of the hat, like over your ears. And same story, cut it the same exact way. One other thing I want to mention is before you start sewing up each section that you've cut out, you need to think about how the hair is going to lay on your hat also. Because on the coons, of course, your hair is coming down this way, down its back, but it's going to be different on your hat. Yes, the sides, over the ears, and across the back, it's all going to be that down direction. But in the front, it's going to go up. And that's because if you have your hair like this, you're going to have all this in your eyes. So whenever you sew these together, think about how your hair is laying on the hat itself. Plus, whenever we go to put a top on this, I haven't done that yet, you're going to want the hair to come this way to where it blends from the front and then all the way back down. It'd be, if you think about it, it'd be like taking a comb and combing your hair straight backwards. That's how you want the hair on your hat to be. Up, back, and down on the sides and in the back. So once you get all your pieces cut out, you've got the overall design ready, and you're going to start stitching. Another really great thing to have on hand is some of these little paper clip tab things. And that's because whenever you have these two pieces of leather, you're going to want to put those on there just to help you hold that in place. And whenever you go to sew across here, you're going to put your two pieces together, tuck that hair down because you don't want it sticking up in your seams, because one, you're going to see your seams from the outside because that hair is going to be tucked in to your stitching and it's going to show a lot more. Two, you don't want little fuzzies all on you, and it's going to get bound up in your string whenever you're sewing. So these are a great thing to have. Whenever I did it, I had a big one and a small one like that, and I just had the big one hold the majority of this if I was working this way, and then I would just move it down as I needed to until I worked all the way down to where I didn't need it, and then I finished it on out. But how I sewed this will be in another video, and I think that kind of gets us through the general idea of the layout of the hat and how you can go about getting all your plans, all your materials that you're going to need to get this project started. So if you like the video, leave me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below. If I forgot something, I probably did. It may be something that I can touch back on in future videos. There's going to be a few of these. I'm not sure how many there's going to be at this point. Just kind of winging it. But you will get to see me put the top portion of this hat on. Haven't done that yet. And that'll be a good example of how these little clips come in to play, and the type of stitching that we're going to do on the top of the hat and that we've done already through this hat that you haven't seen yet. So, till next time, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.